Francisco 49ers deep in the heart. Like Joe Montana in the corner, D. Clark. Garrison Hurst, stiff farm going 99. Don't get it twisted, one and all with prime time.
This is the 49er Faithful UK show, and this is week 6. The 2 and 3 Niners head north to face the 3 and 2 Seahawks. It's a short week and not long to set things right after the complete mess that was week 5. But on the bright side, the Seahawks have had back-to-back losses, including a very ugly loss last Sunday to the New York Giants. This game could serve up everything we know and love about Thursday night football. Can the Niners put their frustrating performance behind them? Or will the Seahawks send 49ers Twitter into absolute meltdown? I'm Gareth Ellis, and I am joined by Naji Karar.
Hello, everyone.
Lee Gowland.
Hey, fellas.
And Paul Hope.
What's up, Fairful?
Good to see you guys. I enjoyed the show that I missed on Monday. Seems like I'm partly redundant now, but you did a good job, Paul. Well done, and very measured, I think. And I obviously chose a good game to sit out because that was a bit of a muddy one to sift through. But you did a good job.
Good therapy. Yeah, that was good.
Yeah,
good job.
Yeah. A little bit of league news that's obviously been catching people's eye, I think, is that Aaron Rodgers has sacked Robert Saleh as head coach of the New York Jets. Not at all surprising. I didn't think Saleh was going to survive the season. I think it was perhaps a little bit earlier than I expected, but not unexpected. I think this leaves the Jets in where they always have been, really, just being the Jets. Obviously, there's talk that he might come back as our DC. He's, I think, put that to bed for the moment. I think most people have him back. I can't see it happening this season. I think he's going to take that time off unless he gets an offer he can't refuse at some point. Any thoughts on it, lads?
Yeah, just Jets gonna be Jets, That's what they do. Fire the defensive coach, even though they're the 4th defense in the league. Doesn't make any sense, but whatever. As for having him back, I mean, obviously I would. He was amazing for us. But it would be such a knife in the back of the people we hired this year, and without giving them the chance to actually prove that they can probably be better than he was. I don't know. I wouldn't mind having him as a consultant, as a, what do you see? What could we improve on? Maybe if he's got time and he wants to do it. I think he's probably going to get another shot somewhere, and it'd be silly to not enjoy the money the Jets are going to pay him for the next 3-4 years or whatever, how long his contract was. Go on holiday and relax and forget about football for a little minute. Must have not been a pleasant experience. So sorry about that, Robert. But yeah, if you want to come home, I'd have him in a heartbeat. Obviously, he was great for us. So why not?
Yep, I'd have him back in a heartbeat. I would, honestly. Obviously, we just talked about this off air before we started. If I was John Lynch, I would be knocking down his door. I said earlier, when it was Salah's first season and when it was DeMeco Ryan's first season, we had reservations about them both, just as we do currently with Nick Sorensen, only this time it feels completely different with Nick Sorensen. It just doesn't feel as though he's got the handle on the defense. We're making sloppy mistakes week in, week out. The first game against the Jets and then the second game against the Vikings, we were missing tackles left, right and centre. But then we corrected it the week after that. But then they've crept back in again. So it doesn't look as though there's any consistency. It doesn't look as though the players are actually listening to the coaches at the moment. And that's my biggest concern as far as Nick Sorensen is concerned. He just doesn't seem to be progressing the defense. It's flip-flopping. It's inconsistent. And if we continue to go like this, then we could end up wasting potentially our last real Super Bowl window for 2 or 3 seasons. And I just feel as though Shanahan and Lynch need to be strong and actually make what would probably be an unpopular decision, but replace Nick Sorensen. The Ravens did it back in 2012. The Ravens weren't having much joy on offense, so they got rid of the offensive coordinator, replaced them halfway through the season, and then went on to beat us in the Super Bowl. It does work if you do it right. And that's my biggest concern. So I would have Robert Salah back. I'd be doing anything I can to get him on that sideline. What do you think, Paul?
Final word.
David Lombardi tweeted out 2 hours ago, chaps, that John Lynch spoke to Salah on the phone yesterday, but he made it clear to KNBR the conversation wasn't an inquiry, rather than a friendly check-in to see how he was doing. So, to be fair, Nadji, I'm just smirking because yesterday was a quiet news day for 49ers Twitter land, and running the social media being dropped that bring Salah back home in my lap when it was a quiet news day was quite all right. And like you said, if you've watched the Jets this year, Gareth, you can't blame the head coach for the way they're playing. Hackett as an offensive coordinator has been dreadful. And me and Lee were chatting before the show because there's been a bit of discontent in Jetsland, which I won't get into. It's all over Twitter. And then this bomb dropped. And as you said, Nadji, it's the Jets being the Jets. But I think what my good friend Nadji Karar said, I think Salah takes the rest of this year. He enjoys that package that the New York Jets will be paying. And he won't be short of an offer or two. But I think for us, given that we're at 2 and 3, and like you said, Lee, the fact that Sorensen hasn't hit the ground running, I think there was a bit of tongue-in-cheek on the UK side of the pond with bring Salah back. But if we're sat here next week and we've brought him back, I don't think anybody will be upset. But I don't think it's happening anytime soon, Gareth.
No, I think if we sat here next week and we are 2 and 4, people are going to be screaming for Salah to come back. Absolutely. Even if it wasn't the defense that lost the game, people are going to be screaming for Robert Salah to come back.
I agree. I have to disagree with your take on Sorensen. I think it's way too soon, and considering the depth chart that he has to deal with, I think it would be completely unfair to say that it's solely on his fault that the defense not gelling. You know, look at what we're missing. Hargraves, Dre, Huff now, which wasn't here anyway. Mooney has not played well at all. Armstead's gone and not been replaced. It's a very different defense that even Salah had or Demeco had last year, a couple of years ago. I mean, the talent is basically just Fred and a couple of rookies that are promising, but just rookies still, Brown being the second year. But apart from Fred and Demo and Bosa, who hasn't been playing well as well, that defense is not Super Bowl caliber on paper. Not yet. They might be in a few weeks. So I want to see what Sorensen can do. It's not just Sorensen; it's Brandon Staley as well. I think it would be very premature to get rid of him week 6. Now, if we enter the bye as a 2 and 6 team, that's a different conversation.
Yeah, I'd agree with Nadji there. I think he hasn't been helped by some of that turnover over on the defense. I think the loss of some leadership with Armstead gone and perhaps hasn't been replaced. We know Fred's the heartbeat, but we know like Bosa's quiet, and maybe there needs to be another voice in there. But I also think it's just been the lack of consistency because Talanoa Havanga comes in, then he's injured again, then we've got to mix things up, then we've been swapping in and out the linebackers, and I think it hasn't helped just having the inconsistency due to the injuries in terms of keeping your personnel. So
we kept every single team we've played under 25 points, apart from the Rams, which obviously was a bit of a weird game, but under 30 points every team we've played this season. That should be enough to win you games in the NFL. We wouldn't have been this conversation if Brock and the offense would score in the red zone, and we would if we would gain 35 to 26 on average, 27 on average, we wouldn't be having this conversation, and we'd be probably thinking Sorensen's doing a decent job.
Well, to be fair, I mean, even if we were winning, the current deficiencies are there for everybody to see. Especially something as basic as the tackling.
We're first in turnovers, right? Or very close to the top. And I think we're pretty high up in efficiency, on defense efficiency. I don't know. I think it's early, especially with having Mustafa, and as I said, Mooney is just been non-existent. When he shows up, the defense going to look totally different. And Devondre Campbell is just not very good, especially compared to Dre, and that's why D. Winters played most of the game against the Cardinals, and he's a second-year player. Again, you look at the talent on the roster and the depth chart. Kev Gave is basically a starter, and that's just kind of says it all, really. I don't know. I don't want to be one of those overreaction podcasts where we go, yeah, let's bring Salah back because we suck on the. I don't know. I think it's definitely a more complicated issues. I personally, missed tackle is inexcusable and unacceptable, but I think the defense is playing pretty well overall. All in all.
See, when I said that the other night, Nadji Kara, Lee Gowland disagreed. And thank you, Nadji, for the rabbit symbol in the chat. I'll be honest, buddy, we didn't get it at the time. And then when we finished recording, we were going through the chat, me and Lee were like, oh, that's what he meant. He was doing the Gareth Ellis rabbit hole warning. So I agree with Nadji. I don't think the defense is playing as bad as we all think they are. But the problem is, Lee, we've been used to a top 5 defense.
Yeah.
We weren't a top 5 defense last year.
The expectation is
and we're not a top 5 defense. I mean, if you look at the run defense, I think we're about 9th in the NFL at the moment, which you think that's not too bad. But when you're used to a top 5 or being the best, and I think that's where expectations are a little bit amiss. But I agree, Nadji, we're not one of those podcasts, and we're not going to become one of those podcasts. So there you told Gowland.
Is that me getting my wrist slapped?
No. I mean, you're absolutely. I see where you're coming from, and I think you hold the team to a higher standard than I am right now. And to be fair, I haven't been following the team during preseason and all that, so maybe my expectations.
I hold this team to the same standard as you hold this podcast, Nadji. The very highest level.
Very high, the very highest possible. Very good. But yeah, I think bye week is a good indication of when you can start thinking about where you're going and how. Let's see how next couple of games go.
Absolutely, and let's climb out of this rabbit hole that we've fallen into very early on. And my fault, I started that off. So the Seattle Seahawks and the first game against a Seahawks team without the gum-chewing, smiley, cheaty Petey on the sidelines that we've come to know and love. Is this a new era? Do you think? Is this a new?
I think it could be.
Chapter.
I think so. It'll feel different. I think having him on the sideline. Definitely. I think it'll feel weird, actually. It's been a while.
Yeah, and not being able to say Cheaty Petey. This might be the last podcast of Cheaty Petey.
Well, I'm sure we'll reminisce of all the time.
Speaking of which, reminiscing sees us nicely over to Lee Gowland and his History Corner.
Smooth.
Okay, so I've got a good one for you. So start off with the basics. The Seahawks lead the series 30-22. So, as with the Cardinals, what I'm going to do is I'm going to delve back into a particular game. And this game was from September the 14th, 2008. It was at Quest Field. Obviously, I wanted to go for a Seahawks home game. And that day, there was an attendance of 67,951. So, this game saw the Seahawks jump out to an early lead, 14-0, through a 27-yard run by Julius Jones and a 10-yard fumble recovery by Craig Terrell before our very own Joe Nedney, friend of the show, friend of the 49er Faithful UK, put 3 points on the board for the Niners towards the end of the first quarter. Start of the second, Nedney steps up again to reduce the deficit by a further 3 points midway through the second before the Seahawks notch field goal of their own by Orlando Mayer, making the score 17-6 to the Seahawks. The Niners managed to add a second touchdown through a 3-yard pass to Brian Johnson from the QB school's very own JT O'Sullivan.
JT O'Sullivan.
Yeah. But the Hawks put another field goal on the scoreboard to end the first half with a 7-point lead at 20-13. Luckily enough, there was some adjustments made at the half time, and the Niners kind of dominated the third quarter. The first score was an 87-yard interception return by Pro Football Hall of Fame linebacker Patrick Willis.
Friend of the show.
Friend of the show.
Host of the show.
See where I've gone with this game. That was quickly followed up by a 2-yard run by 49ers Hall of Fame running back and friend of the show, Frank Gore, putting the Niners up 27-20. On to the fourth quarter. So the Seahawks come back with a 1-yard run by TJ Duckett, and then take the lead midway through the fourth quarter with another field goal by Orlando Mayer. Towards the end of the fourth, Jordan Edney puts the ball through the uprights late in the fourth quarter to bring the scores level at 30-30. This is how the game will eventually finish regulation time. So on to overtime we go. The 49ers get the ball first. They march down the field and Jordan Edney puts the ball through the uprights to bring the scores to 33-30, and it's a walk-off field goal. Jordan Edney is the hero.
Unfair.
JT O'Sullivan threw for 321 yards that day and a touchdown, but he was also sacked 8 times during the game for a loss of 49 yards.
Very nice.
Frank Gore finished the game with 61 yards off 19 carries, while Isaac Bruce, former St. Louis Rams wide receiver, had 153 yards off only 4 catches for the 49ers.
Wow. Yeah, sounds like guys like Bruce.
Now, there was one player playing in that game. Well, there's more than one player, to be honest. But this player that played, who had a foot in both camps, Julian Peterson, linebacker out of Michigan State. He contributed 1 sack to Seattle's total of 8 that day. So Peterson actually played 11 seasons in total, spending 6 years with the 49ers. He then moved on to the Seahawks, where he spent another 3 years, and his final 2 years was with the Detroit Lions. He was taken 16th overall in the 2000 NFL draft. And believe it or not, immediately after that pick, and Najee's going to really like this. Najee is just going to get himself so excited about this. With the 17th pick of the 2000 NFL draft, the Oakland Raiders drafted a kicker.
Oh my God.
In
Oh,
the first round of the draft.
Yeah, I remember.
3 picks later, the Seahawks would draft Sean Alexander, who went on to grace the cover of Madden. I think he had the one decent season, which got him on the cover of Madden. Other than that, I don't think he managed to break 10,000 yards rushing. But he was a well-known player for the Seahawks back in the day. So Peterson earned All-Pro second team back in 2002. This was his 3rd season in the league, before improving on that the next season where he was an All-Pro. He had 21.5 sacks during his Niners career and 51.5 in total, with his 2 best years actually being the first 2 up in Seattle. His career high in a single game came for the Seahawks, ironically, against the Niners, in a 23-3 victory on the 30th of September 2007. He also had 8 interceptions over his career, with 5 of them coming during his time at the Niners. And that's pretty much it for Julian Peterson. But let's hang about with the 2000 NFL draft. So what other notable players was taken in 2000? There wasn't that many. Brian Urlacher was taken in the first round at number 8. The 49ers drafted quarterback Giovanni Camazzi in the 3rd round, and he never played a single snap in the regular season. His career lasted 1 whole season before he was ditched. They also took another quarterback in the 7th round, and that was Tim Rattay, who did play a regular season snap. There was also some guy from San Mateo taken 199th overall, somebody called Tom Brady. I don't think much ever came.
Never heard of him. Yeah.
No. So, I mean, we took the best 2 quarterbacks in that draft anyway.
Clearly.
Now, one more thing. It's not really... Oh, is it history? Yeah, you can call it History Corner. What I've noticed tonight when I've been on Ticketmaster is the tickets for this year's game, tomorrow's game, are selling for approximately $50 cheaper than the corresponding game last year, the one I was at on Thanksgiving. I could probably get a halfway aligned seat this year. It'll be up in the top row, but it'll be a halfway aligned seat, whereas last year I was stuck in the corner for exactly the same price as what I paid last year.
Interesting.
So
I mean, it was Thanksgiving, right?
It was. It was Thanksgiving, and the fact that the the 49ers were doing so well, they were expecting a lot of 49ers fans to turn up, and they did.
Yeah.
And I'm not expecting that tomorrow. I'm expecting quite the opposite, to be honest.
Fair.
And that is History Corner.
Very nice. Very nice.
Thank you, Lee. Thank you.
No problem.
That was thorough and detailed,
was
and a
thorough.
nice trip down memory lane. Injury report.
Was the kicker Janikowski?
Get
No, he was
that
a punter,
rabbit
wasn't he?
warning up.
No.
Gareth.
No, he
Get
wasn't.
that
No.
rabbit warning up.
It was
It's back again.
Janikowski.
Yeah, that's what. Yeah, Janikowski.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. It
The
was him.
only
All right.
issue with History Corner, Nadji, is he mentioned every friend of the show but Joe Staley, and that's what I've been waiting for. I thought he's got to get in Joe Staley somewhere, but it's all right. Lee.
Yeah.
That's too
You
early
know
for
what,
Joe,
I-
right?
No, so this was 2008.
you
Joe
said?
would have been
8,
playing.
yeah, right. No, yeah,
Joe
that
would have
is-
been playing.
See, we
If
got
he
it in
wasn't
there.
injured,
in the
he
end.
would have been playing because he's pretty much played them all anyway.
Yeah. All right, rabbit hole down.
Smoothly into injury corner without mention of injuries. The Seahawks have been carrying a few. Not practicing so far this week, linebackers Derek Hall and Uchenna Nwosu, defensive tackle Byron Murphy, and cornerback Tariq Woolen. Potentially a big loss there. They have quite a few names on the injury report, but they are all back to full practice. The 49ers is once again not pretty reading. Jake Moody, we know he's going to be out for multiple weeks. Chris Connolly is not practicing again, along with Jordan Elliott, Demetrius Flanagan-Fowles, and Talanoa Hufanga, another one who we know will be missing multiple weeks, and I guess may even be an IR candidate, though I'm not sure we're going to have much space for the returnable IR designations. Some players still limited in practice, George Kittle, Fred Warner, and Mooney Ward. Not looking great. We're looking a bit banged up, aren't we? And I think it's that. It's unsettling. We can't get a rhythm of players practicing together and then playing together for 2 weeks in a row.
Yeah, I think it shows our lack of depth at pretty much every position, especially on the defensive side. We've lost too many key pieces. D-line is just not deep enough. Obviously, linebackers we've been talking about for a while. We will basically have 2 or 3 that can suit up and be contending to play, good enough to play. And the corners is kind of the same, behind Demo and Mooney and Azag Adam. There's not really anyone we could actually trust. Humphrey Thomas on IL. And it's the same as the safety position. We have basically 3, and one of them is more of a special teamer than a safety. So, yeah, I think the lack of depth and obviously a few bad luck injuries starting to show up. I'd be very surprised if we don't use some of our cap space before the trade deadline to get a bit deeper at a lot of position. Not necessarily change the whole way we play, but just get people. It feels like we kind of need bodies at the moment because especially on the D-line, our rotation was something that people really were scared of. People would come in a third completely fresh and they would destroy you just purely because they were good enough and they were fresh. And we do not seem to have this. Not this year. Definitely not last year as well. It is a concern that it keeps on piling up and racking. And a quick game on Thursday night is definitely not going to help. It's going to be a battle as well. 2 divisional in a row on the short week. It's rough. Very rough.
Shall we see how the Niners D lines up against the Seahawks offense? Have you got a nice graphic for us?
I do indeed. He's done it.
So slick.
Look at that.
So
beautiful. Slick. Beautiful.
And Paul's had a productive lunch hour once again.
No, Nadji can start off with this. I've got some notes prepared, Nadji.
You go if you go for it.
Well, I was just going to say, Nadji, Gareth stole it at the start of the show. When McDonald became the Seahawks head coach, he's obviously known for being more defensive. So it was kind of a bit, Pete Carroll was known for being defensive. And he brought a similar offensive philosophy, even with Geno Smith, who is allegedly a reliable quarterback, a trio of talented receivers. They wanted to hang their hat on running the ball. And through the first 5 weeks of the season, the Seahawks are facing the same problem that Carroll had last year. This identity that they talk about just hasn't been there. I don't know, Nadji, did you watch the game against the Giants, the Seahawks, before I go any further?
No, I try not to watch preseason games.
Basically, they abandoned the run. I don't think Walker touched the ball until the third quarter. And it's just been strange that a lot of people say the Detroit Lions are a team to watch. And I did focus a lot on that week 4 loss to the Lions. But for me, the numbers were a bit skewed on that one because they were playing from behind. And when you're playing from behind, you tend to abandon the run because you've got to pass the ball. But McDonald and Grubb, the offensive coordinator, have come out, Gareth, and said that the number of times that Ken Walker III and Cabernet have ran the ball, it's not enough. I mean, last week, apparently, they ran the ball the same number of times Geno Smith was sacked, which was 7 times. And Walker didn't record his third carry until midway through the third quarter. So they're no stranger to this off balance because obviously they're used to having a power back like Lynch and they were known for running the ball. But when you look at this game, they got off to a 3-0 start, which everyone was very excited about. They thought the McDonald era was here. But then the last 2 weeks, they were blown out against the Lions and they lost a bit of a nail-biter against the Giants. So is there anyone on offense at this point, before we go any further, that you've got your eye on?
Yes, the wide receiver. I think they are actually pretty good, apart from Metcalf, who's still very terrible, I think. But Lockett's a good one, and Jackson Smith and Jigbe is very, very good indeed. Can make plays. Luckily, I don't think Geno Smith is a good quarterback, so I'm not that scared about them. But considering the state of our secondary and who we have in it and the way they've been playing, again, apart from Lenore, I think everybody has been extremely subpar, and they're going to have to raise their game up. But it is one of those games where Metcalf could do some damage. He's big enough and he's fast enough and strong enough to go and catch a ball against Mustafa or Brown. I think that's definitely their strength, and they know it. Even though they would like to run the ball, their whole line is pretty much garbage, really, apart from the left side. And they just can't run the ball. Since they've lost Lynch, they just haven't been able to run the ball at all, basically. So I'm not really scared on that front. I just know that Tyler Lockett's got a good game in him at some point, and it might well be against us. He's capable. He's very good. I hate that he plays for that team because I actually enjoy watching him play. It's a shame. And Smith and Jigba is kind of the same guy, essentially. We're gonna have to definitely have better play out of Mooney Ward if we want to have a chance to win this game, I believe.
Well, I'm glad you answered my question that way because it would have made this next bit embarrassing. So it won't surprise you that Seattle has adopted a pass-heavy approach this season, even when the game allows Gareth for their entire playbook to be open. Interestingly enough, through the first 5 weeks of the season, Nadji alluded to Smith not being a great quarterback. What they've done well is the Seahawks rank second in early down pass rate in neutral situations. So he's getting the ball out of his hands quickly into those receivers Nadji mentioned, which is similar to what we used to do with previous quarterbacks. It was kind of the yards after the catch. It was kind of trusting your receivers to make those big plays. But when Walker has been given the ball, which is something last week I learned, I didn't want to come on here and say the offense was totally trash and they've got no weapons. Walker has been successful. He ranks 10th in yards per attempt at 5.5, 11th in rush EPA, and 9th in yards after contact. Now, Cabernet hasn't been as effective, but as we've just spent 5 minutes talking about, they haven't been running the ball. But what they've done quite well, Nadji, is when Walker has had the ball in his hands, even though the offensive line hasn't been great, he's been effective. And that's something I'm a little bit worried about because our third down defense, our run defense hasn't been great. And I do believe that McDonald and Grubb will try to attack us in that area. I don't think they're going to come out and be as pass heavy. I think this might be a game where they try and run the ball. And that's something that I'm a little bit nervous about. I can see Lee's nodding in agreement. Do you want to jump in at this point, Lee?
Yeah, so that's exactly what my concern is there. I think they've got some very capable wide receivers on the team. And even though I agree with Nadji 100%, I do not like Geno Smith. I don't think he's a particularly good quarterback. He can still get the ball to them. and that's a worry.
That's right.
Now, if they can get their run game working, then it's going to be a long night for us.
Yeah.
And I kind of alluded to this earlier on at the end of History Corner. There, the man that's really concerning me at the moment is the 12th man, because I think tomorrow night there's going to be a lot more Seahawks fans there than 49er fans, and the reason I think that is because I think they can smell blood. They've seen the last two divisional games that we've played, and they'll be thinking, you know what, we can kick this 5-game skid against the 49ers. We need to get out there and we need to support the team. So I think it's going to be loud in the stadium when we're on offense. I think that's going to have an impact on our game as well, which means I think this is going to be a lot closer than potentially we'd like it to be. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of us who are sat up early hours Friday morning feeling quite nervous about this game as it's going on. So I think it is imperative that we stop Kenneth Walker.
I think we need to put the ball in Smith's hands. I mean, you go back against the Giants. The Giants knew that was the plan. If the run game didn't start, says here, Gareth, the Seahawks were 3 for 11 on third down and failed on all attempts that required Smith gaining more than 4 yards. And you've alluded to the offensive line, Nadji. The Seattle offensive line isn't equipped to deal with so many dropbacks. And we talked about the Jets at the start of the show. It's very similar to what the Jets did the other Thursday night when they were terrible. It was kind of like, what are you doing? Why are you abandoning the run? And we've talked about the 49ers not having this identity. And I think McDonald is struggling at the moment to put his identity in place for the Seahawks. So I'm kind of a little bit apprehensive because the way our season's gone. But when I've done the deep dive, Gareth, they're not the Seattle of old. They haven't got Russell Wilson running around. And as you said, Nadji, they've got Geno Smith. Now, he doesn't scare me at all. I just hope that we can get more pressure on him like we've done over those past 5 meetings that you've alluded to, Lee. You got any thoughts, Gareth, on the Seahawks offence? I know we've done a lot of talking over these last 5 minutes.
So I've done a lot of listening. I think they are probably going to try and establish the run. We know that they want to, and they saw what James Conner did to us in the latter half of the game on Sunday. I think they are going to try and smack the ball up the middle. I think their offensive line is going to try and get the better of our defensive line, and try and wear us down, and then see where they can find some holes in the defense. I think we're probably going to be a good test for them. We know, I think there's probably going to be a few opportunities for receivers to get wide open 20 yards down the field. It's whether Geno's going to get the time to find them and the accuracy to hit them, which he is. He's they're one of those middling quarterbacks. He's too good to be a backup, but he's that kind of definitely that bottom end starter. But I do think one thing that's in his favour is that his floor, I think, is quite high. He often doesn't turn out like a terrible game where he's done bad decision making and just had an absolute stinker. I think he's got a consistency. You know what you're going to get, and I think it's down to an offensive coordinator to work within that and get the best out of him. I think
it's the new Andy Dalton.
Yeah. I think it's a good test for our defense as well, because I think they're going to be hurting, or they should be hurting after last week's performance. I think we've talked about Sorensen. He's going to need to put in a good performance. I think he's going to want to try and keep Seattle quiet, and I think the way to do that is win that battle in the trenches and get after Geno and see where that takes us. If we can basically make sure that we've got no run game and Geno's got not a lot of time, we know he isn't the sort of guy who does a lot off script, and he's not going to extend plays with his legs. And yeah, he might run for a first down every now and then, but he's no Kyler Murray. So I think that's our
Not mention his name again.
Sorry, Najee. Sorry, I've triggered the PTSD. I'm sorry.
Yeah, you had to get that in because you weren't here the other night. But I mean, Dexter Lawrence had a field day against this offensive line, and I'm hoping Nick Bosa is going to have the same. So they're the matchups I'm looking at. I mean, Connor Williams didn't do great against Lawrence. Christian Haynes wasn't fantastic. And like you said, Najee, you look around the league, if you're struggling at offensive line, that doesn't help your quarterback.
it's
And
difficult
another
to play football.
telltale sign as well is that as much as they're not running the ball very well, Gareth, they're putting extra backs to try and kind of like shore up that offensive line. So it looks like a run play, but quickly on the Giants realised Geno Smith's thrown this. The reason them two are in the backfield is to provide the extra block, like what we do for Kittle. And like you said, the Giants, not a lot of people gave them credit going into this one. Maybe the Seahawks were like us last week with the Cardinals, thought they just had to turn up. They were 3-1. They thought it was going to be an easy game. And it just shows what you can do in the NFL.
NFL.
I mean, any given Sunday,
Any
on
given
Thursday
Sunday,
night or
indeed.
Friday morning.
And it's particularly crazy this year. Any final points on the Seahawks offense, or indeed our defense, before we flip over?
Yeah, I think we are going to have to force them to make mistakes. If nothing else, then quiet the crowd down. I think, Lee, you're totally right saying that. That 12th man has always been a problem, but especially when blood is in the water and they can smell it, I think it is going to be loud. But if we can force this offense to stink and turn the ball over, fumbles and picks, I think that would definitely help our offense on the other side quieten and make sure that that stadium, whatever it's called these days, is quiet. So, that's going to be important. It's a divisional matchup. Turnovers are always very key.
It's the run defense, isn't it? It's like what Lee said, the broken tackles. Lee was right what he said on Monday night.
Yeah, we're gonna
it's
have
an
to be
issue
sound.
for us. I mean, that's where sitting at ninth, I said earlier, for rushing yards, allowed 110.8 yards per game. We've allowed 113 yards on the ground over the last 3 games. And like Lee said, the lapse in concentration. It's a little bit of effort. It's a little bit of coaching technique. And it's something that you want to see stamped out, because if we allow them to establish the run and run it as at will, as the chaps have all said, it doesn't make for a good recipe.
It does not. Shall we flip it over? Let's have a look at, see how we match up on the other side of the ball. Good defensive unit, obviously a new head coach with a defensive mind. He did very much get the better of us last time we met him when he was the Ravens defensive coordinator on Christmas Day. Sorry to trigger any more flashbacks from that masterclass, I think, of a defensive performance. I kind of think that's basically what got him this head coaching job. Let's face it, I think that probably swung it completely. Who's going to take us through this one, Paul? Or is it Nadji?
No, you stole some of my thunder there, because you're right,
Sorry,
McDonald and the Ravens. No, it's good, because I think that's what did get him the job. And I think that game kind of put a bit of a blueprint on how to play against Brock. But the Seahawks chaps haven't matched up well with our 49ers over the last 2 years, which I had to get in there because the Seahawks dominated my early fandom and they always just seem to beat us. So the average margin of defeat during this 5-game losing streak is 15.2. Now, Lee will get to a score prediction later, so I'm not stealing that from anyone. Ranked 25th in the NFL last year in points allowed. The reason the Seahawks went for McDonald, because can you tell me, chaps, who was the best defense in allowing points last year in the regular season, just off the top of your head? Who do you think it could be, Gareth?
Was it Baltimore?
It was Baltimore. So that just goes to show the Seahawks, they've focused a lot on the defense in the draft. They took 4 defensive players. I think Byron Murphy in the first round, but he's not playing. Am I right, Nadji? I don't think he's playing.
He's not practicing.
Yeah,
I was going to say he's not practicing, but he hasn't got a designation yet. I mean, that would be a huge boost if he wasn't.
Yeah. So we talk on the show about not focusing on last year and just focusing on what's happened. So through the first 3 weeks of the season, the Seahawks had the best defense in the league by whatever stats you wanted to look at. They pressured the quarterback as well as anyone. They were solid against the run, apart from that second half against New England. And Mike McDonald got off to a 3-0 start, and our noisy neighbours, our little brother, started chirping at me on Twitter. They started getting at me on social media. But the last 2 weeks have been a fall from grace. In consecutive losses to the Lions and the Giants, this much vaunted defence has allowed 65 points, with only the Carolina Panthers allowing more over these last few weeks. In the 2 losses, chaps, we have seen Seattle their opponents have rushed for 289 yards on designed attempts. the 6th most over the last couple of weeks. They've also surrendered that key explosive pass play, which Brock loves to do at the moment, at a league high rate. They've allowed opponents to convert on third downs at 45.5% of the time, which, Najee, if that was sustained, would be one of the top 10 worst marks in the league.
Wow.
Now, again, stats can be used however you want, and I do love a good stat on this show. But as you've alluded to, McDonald uses a variety of coverages each week. He likes to keep the quarterback guessing. They kind of operate this weird split safety look before the snap. It's a traditional 3-4 with a couple of stunts mixed in there, but he does like to keep the quarterback guessing. He likes to move pieces along the line. Now, they're not quite all bought into a scheme yet, as we've seen over these first 5 weeks. But at this point, Najee, is there anything that you think McDonald has done differently for the Seahawks defense, what you've seen or what you've heard?
Yeah, so I think the most common thing, and is something that has always kind of been a Seahawks thing, is they'll be well coached. I think limiting the amount of mistakes that they make has always been very important since the days of, the Legion of Boom. I think it was very apparent that playing smart was the way to go. And I think that's something that has always been in Baltimore as well. Just smart defenses that just don't make a lot of mistakes. Helps you win game a lot easier than just being better at your opponent. So I expect something of the like. Now, they don't quite have the talent to be able to play at the level that Baltimore can do, or that a Legion of Boom defense could. It's a divisional matchup. I think they'll be up for it. I think they'll want to redeem themselves against what would seem to be a lesser opponent in the Giants, and a team that is probably going to pick very high in the draft at the end of the season. So I'd be scared at home with the 12 behind them, that they'll want to put a very good performance and tighten up on those big plays and stop our run game. I think that'll be their goal and their motto on that night. I mean, Jaron Reed has cost us all sorts of trouble. Even when we've beaten them, he's been a very good player. So I think I'll have my eye on him, definitely. See if Puny can handle him, and McKivitz, if he decides to stunt and stuff like this. I think the fact that they're missing Nwosu is quite big. He's pretty good.
Yeah.
And again, it's a depth thing. A short week, missing player is never a good thing. But they don't have they don't seem to have the players that love to be good against us. Quandre Diggs is gone. And obviously Bobby Wagner's gone now a long time ago. But I'm thinking of all these names that seem to just live up when they play against us. They're just not there anymore. So maybe we can take advantage of that.
I think injuries will play a key part. Like I was saying, Gareth, the split safety look. Why I mentioned that, as Niners fans, we all know Shanahan builds everything off the run game. But when a defense is defending the run from that safety structure, it can be difficult because not every gap's accounted for. If you've already got injuries at key pieces, I think Shanahan is going to attack that personally from when I've been doing my deep dive. And like you said, Najee, the injuries might require them to play without outside linebackers. Derek Hall has got a foot injury. Boy Maffa has got a knee injury. And Nwosu, I apologise if I've got that wrong. He's already been ruled out when I was preparing this earlier. And it said Byron Murphy's out. So missing these edge defenders is going to increase the burden on Seattle's second-level players to do better against the run. And that's where I think Shanahan's going to be into his bag of tricks this week. I'm hoping for a big game from Debo, which we'll get to. I'm hoping for a big game from Jordan Mason. But I'm interested to see how they cover those gaps like I've talked about. I've got to say the coverage that they've used has been decent. They've only allowed 5 catches on 12 targets for 41 yards when in coverage. Playing without Woolen could mean more snaps for Trey Brown, who's coming off his worst game as a pro. He allowed 6 catches for 100 yards and a touchdown. He was also flagged twice for a hold. As you said, Najee, we don't like to highlight penalty plays, but sometimes in this game you've got to look out for it, because I know we don't have Dre Greenlaw, but I'm hoping Metcalf is thrown off his game. But I am talking defence. Any questions at this point, Lee, about the Seattle defence before I go any further?
No, I'll let you crack on, mate. No questions at all.
Well, all I was going to summarise is the Seahawks' plan is going to try to stop the run. That's what this defence is going to come into. And obviously, they've seen what Brock Purdy can do with the play action, with the explosive plays. So that, Gareth, concludes the defence. Now, I do have a couple of stats, but I didn't want to get too bog heavy. The rush defence is currently ranked 20th. They've allowed 128 rushing yards per game and have conceded 5 touchdowns this season on the run. And I was trying to think, scoring defence, they're ranked 17th overall. So they've allowed 22.8 points per game and 12 total touchdowns. For comparison, our defence is ranked 12th. So when I looked at some of the metrics, I did put the 49ers defence next to it, because some people think our defence has played absolutely terrible, and I don't think it's played as bad as we think. But that is the Seattle defence, chaps.
Thank you, Paul.
Nice.
Sawa.
Very nice, very nice.
I agreed with you to a certain extent. I do think that people are defensive coordinators are going to do what we've seen pretty much most of the season, and they're going to drop those players back into coverage. I think they've shown that that's a way of potentially causing Purdy some trouble. You take the occasional Purdy's going to scramble and get a first down here and there. Don't worry about that too much. You take away his targets and you force him out of the pocket. That's probably the best you can ask for, because if he's in the pocket, he will carve you open. Defensive coordinators have seen that. I think you talked a little bit about it on Monday's show. Maybe we don't want to go there too much, but Purdy is taking a long time to get rid of the ball. I think, as with you, Lee, I don't think the offensive line put in too bad a performance against the Cardinals. I don't think the Cardinals' pass rush is the most terrifying in the league. But I put that on Shanahan. Where's the quicker passing game? Where's that rhythm passing game that we've seen be successful? When you get into rhythm with that short passing game and then you hit them with the outside run, and suddenly McCaffrey's getting 20, 30 yards a pop, and the defense just doesn't know what's going to happen.
We did do it once, you know.
We haven't seen it enough, though. We haven't seen it enough.
We haven't seen
I
it
was
enough,
keeping my powder dry, Gareth, because
I've ruined everything for you.
When you go against play action, Jared Goff went 12 for 12, 229 yards, 1 touchdown on play action passes. Even Daniel Jones, which I coach flag football, and our QB is a Giants fan, and I rib him every week about Daniel Jones, bless him. And he was able to come to training because there's a few Seahawks fans, and he came in with a spring in his step. And he was like, even Daniel Jones went 9 for 12 for 101 yards with 2 touchdowns on 14 play-action dropbacks. So where I think the Seattle defense will try and stop the run, I was going to get to it in my bold predictions. I want to see play action. I want to see Brock Purdy doing those pump fake passes to the birthday boy, George Kittle. And I think this is where we're going to eat tomorrow night. But I knew you'd know that, Gareth, anyway. So we segued nicely into it, didn't we?
We need to see a bit of our old offense back. I think we have been out of sorts in several levels. And hopefully this is going to be a game where we just go back to some basics, to those things that we know work well. Any final things on the Seattle defense, or indeed the Niners offense? Or should we just roll that into some of our predictions?
So one player I'd really love to see, and that's the double fake and then the toss to George Kittle. Because the season after, it might be in the game after, the Seahawks did it back to us. Mm-hmm. And I think us doing it again, I think that kind of evens it up a bit. It gets totally us back on the status quo has returned.
And that's it. And Brock has yet to lose to Seattle, so he's not going to want that.
That's very true. That's very true, yeah.
And his 4 wins over Seattle, Gareth, glad you mentioned that. He's averaged 281.5 yards, 8 touchdowns, and completed 66.4% of his passes. And like Lee's just said there, what we want to see is run, play action, a trick play, loads of touchdowns, and I'm sure Nadji's going to have a 75 to 50 score prediction or something.
Stop looking at my notes. Stop looking at my notes.
So once again, we have segued smoothly. Betting lines before we look at the score predictions. The Niners are 3.5-point favourites. That again is pretty heavily favoured on the road, and the over under I have is a whopping 47.5. But Lee claims he has seen an over under of 49. So again,
No,
people are thinking this is going to be a high scoring game. What's kept me in check is the fact it's Thursday night football, and it often isn't. Score predictions, let's just forget.
Let's just not talk about last week and the absolute fiasco that even the faithful didn't manage to escape from.
Am I still top though?
Yeah, nothing has changed.
In which case, that's probably me first for the score prediction, isn't it?
It is indeed.
Yeah, sadly, I can see this one being just a little bit sticky, bit stop-start, a few flags here and there, a little bit frustrating. But the Niners, we've got what it takes, and are going to pull out a win, 24-17.
24-17, very nice.
Yeah.
I'm so glad I changed my score prediction. Gareth. You've got a camera on me.
I was so tempted to go 31-13, but the chances of
we
it
should all go 31-13. That's the only score we can.
Back-to-back scores.
Do you know how many times we've beaten them? 31-13.
What? 3 or 4 times? 0. Never. It's never happened.
Once.
I've decided if I lose and don't keep the trophy, I'm going to get it inscribed on here, something about 31-13 or something, because that's what won me this last year. I'm not going to lie.
Funny enough, I worked out what your average scores were over the season, bar that one score. And had you not got that perfect score, you'd have finished last, based on the average scores.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yeah. That's how much of a difference it made. Yeah.
It is.
Well,
good to score 15.
I don't care what I scored, Nadji, because look what's sat right here.
It's my go, I believe. I think we get right. I think we were a couple of plays away from blowing up the Cardinals, and I think it's going to happen in Seattle. I just think they're a bad team. They won against the Broncos, the Patriots, and the dumpster fire that is the Dolphins. And they played one good team and got absolutely trounced. I think we're going to win 35-6.
Ooh. Nadji, I love it. Who's next?
Paul.
I think it's me, yeah. So I did have 24-17 earlier, and then when I started doing the scouting, I shouldn't do this. I should just lock a scoring, because when I start looking at the other team, I get excited. Now, I'm not going to steal Gowland's thunder with 31-13. I was tempted, Lee, but the Niners win this one 31-17. That's my prediction for tomorrow night.
You had to go there.
Well, I talked myself into it when I looked at this defense and I looked at where the touchdowns are going to come from. I thought 31-13 would be comedy value, but I don't think Lee would ever forgive me, so I added an extra 3 points.
Funnily enough, that's exactly what I think the score is going to be, 31-17. But
that's not what you're going for.
No, I'm going to go for 31-13. I'm going to have to stick with it, because
nice.
I've managed to put myself in this corner where I can't go for anything but 31-13. Even though I don't think it's going to be 31-13, on the off chance it is 31-13 and I didn't go for it.
Yeah.
So I've got no choice but to go for 31-13.
That is a good example to discard, because Nadji, this could be the week we see people choosing against our beloved Niners. I've seen the chats. I'm not going to name the names.
I think some people are starting to feel the pressure of falling a little bit behind. And I think this is the first week we see some losses. Yes, I hope we don't see enough that it makes the whole median a loss. But it could do. We'll see. We will see.
Not on my watch.
You never know.
Who's going to stick the necks out with some boldies?
I can go. I've already started. Crazy score. It's never going to happen, but you never know. Jordan Mason, 200 yards, 3 touchdowns.
Ooh. Bold. Nice. Love it.
It's Jordan. Do you remember what he did last time? Do you remember last time he played in there?
Mhm.
He went off. He's gonna do it again.
Well, Brock Purdy ranks 4th in passing yards, and I think he's going to be quite heavy in the play action. So I think Brock's going for 300 passing yards, 3 passing touchdowns. Ayuk, Birthday Boy Kittle, and Debo. I think we get RB1 with his rushing touchdown, obviously. And I think our right kicker gets 1 goal, and he's perfect. So that's my offensive bold prediction.
We haven't talked about that. Yeah, that's a good point.
I've got a special
Let's
teams
not.
prediction, G, but I'll save that for when we talk special teams.
Very nice.
So
And Lee?
my first offensive bowlie is very, very similar to Najee's. And I've got Jordan Mason running for 150 plus yards and 2 touchdowns.
I wanna put it on level. I said 200 yards. It's all purpose. If he rushed for 200, that would be crazy. All purpose yards.
He goes bold on this one, G. You've got to get the memo. It's what Gowland does.
Yeah, no,
Yeah, exactly.
150 is nuts.
And
Yeah.
my second offensive bowlie is Brandon Ayuk receives for 150 plus yards and 2 touchdowns.
Very nice. Very nice. I've
Very
got
nice.
another offensive one. It's not
Go
on
for
our
it.
side. It's not on our side, however. Bold
Ooh.
prediction. I think Sam Howell will play more than a quarter. That's the backup.
Oh,
For the people that didn't know.
yeah.
Sam Howell is
We've learned something new.
The Seahawks backup, and he will play in this game. More than 1 quarter. That's my bold prediction.
Is Gino going to get knocked out of the game or benched?
I reckon he'll be benched because it'll be 35-3 and at the end of the third or something like
He's
So
going to get
Howell
benched, and
gets
then
garbage.
DK Metcalf's going to knock him out on the bench.
that. Yeah, both.
Probably. That's DK. I'd like to see Ayuk get the second 100-yard game back-to-back would be pretty nice. I do like that.
Yeah. Needed as well. I think
Any
he always does this as much.
Come on, Gareth, make us proud. Go for the boldest of bold.
Yeah, I've lost my boldy touch really. I do think we might see a
Anything
first
to do
team
with Ronnie Bell. That's the boldest of bold.
catch the ball.
Ronnie Bell wears a
He
uniform.
played
Ronnie
a
Bell is
lot
active.
against the Cardinals.
He did. He
He played a
Yeah,
lot.
but he didn't get a
against
bloody
the
catch,
Cardinals.
did he? He didn't get a single catch.
He was on the field a lot, which is crazy.
So imagine how unbearable Gowland would have been if Ronnie Bell had done a good
Just
catch
a one
or even
catch.
a touchdown. He just needed one.
He didn't even get a target.
No.
I do have Isaac Guendo getting his first TD. I think he's going to
Nice.
sneak in. And I
Played
was
pretty
going to
well last week.
flip over to the defensive side of the ball. I think D Winters is going to get his first interception.
Ooh, I love this. I like that. I like that at all.
I think that's a double newbie, one on each side.
Double newbie, very nice. I'll pile on to that. I think Mustafa is going to have his first pick, and that'll be a pick 6 and 8 points, 35 of them. Pick 6, Mustafa. I'm going to stay away from Mooney. I think I may have jinxed him last week, so he definitely needs to play better.
Yours is bolder than mine. I did have Mustafa for an interception, but purely because I knew he was definitely playing. I've gone for Gareth Boy Lenore for an interception, and
Again,
this is boldly.
bold.
This is bold. No big explosive plays conceded on a crucial 4th down play. That's what I'm going for because I've got to take a leaf out of Gowland's book.
Crazy.
So I'm actually going to go for Mooney because he's had such a crap season so far. He's been such a disappointment. I'm actually going to go for 2 interceptions by Mooney Ward.
Nice.
Fair enough,
And
fair
my
enough.
other bowlie on defense, and you're going to like this, I'm going to go for 3 sacks, 3+ sacks for Sam Okawanu.
Because I have 4 sacks overall, so I'm happy with that.
Good.
Lee. I'm happy
I
with
like
that.
that. I like that. Very nice.
I've got my last one. Geno Smith is going to make the greatest touchdown throw of his career, and it's going to be brought back by a DK Metcalf penalty.
You just want the emotional roller coaster to experience it at daft o'clock in the morning, Mr. Ellis, because anyway,
I do
we'll
love
all
it,
be
though.
like, no!
That's
And then it'll be
great.
like, yeah!
That would be the greatest moment of the game for sure. Yeah, very nice. Very, very nice.
And my last boldy, we will not be talking about special teams in a negative way when we next record.
I mean, that is bold.
Funnily enough, I was just about to say we will be talking about special teams, but not in a negative way.
Same thing.
Because
same
Jacob
thing,
Cowens had full practice all week.
Oh,
So I think he's going to be the
Good
kick
news.
returner again.
Could
Very
have
nice.
a hat trick then with another rookie touchdown first.
Very nice.
Yeah.
We have so many. We need it.
And I missing Monday show, I didn't get a chance to talk about Mitch Wisnowski kicking a field goal,
Nice.
which
Well,
I think you
wouldn't
were
have been great.
remiss.
I don't understand. I think if I had been a head coach, I would have gone for a fake. Juice was the holder. He used to play QB. Just throw the ball.
Yeah,
Win the game.
someone could sneak out there. Yeah,
Or a Mitch run
Nobody was
play,
expecting
but-
it.
yeah.
Anyway,
yeah. There we go. Wonderful. I think we should wrap that up. Thank you, gents. Nothing
I would
else?
like to. Yeah, sorry, completely
Discord?
forgot. During the Discord, the prediction league, we've got a new leader with Anthony Forger still on. Some people did score a few points. They got close enough to get the 5 points to nail the score, either the Cardinals or the Niners without the win. Scott Mason has joined the lead with 28 points. Anthony Forger and Scott Mason in the lead. 28 points, guys. That's a lot more than any of us. Not that
stretching
far
out.
off.
Yeah.
Not that far up, but yeah. Keep on. So when this podcast comes out, Kev will have done his magical work and put his spreadsheet out. I will say one thing: try to put the same name every week, otherwise it creates new entry in the table, and it's a nightmare to try and compile. I'm looking at you, Martin Hughes. Mart. It changes every week.
I thought you were going to say Wayne
you-
Humphrey
I blame the
and
God
White.
and Wayne.
I
Yeah.
was just about to say, you do know he's had 2 different Facebook accounts in the last 2 months.
I know. It's probably nice, but it's on Discord, and you just write your name it's a Google Doc. You just write your name. Just write the same name every time, please, if you can. That would be greatly appreciated. But yeah, just blame the government if not.
If people haven't played along, they can still join. Obviously, they'll be starting at
Absolutely, yeah.
0, but people
Yeah.
can still join. So yeah, get involved.
Hey, you get 2 nailed on. You get 30 points. You're right in the lead.
Totally.
It's not impossible. Yeah, no, join in. It's not about the competition itself, but it's more
It is.
having a different look at the game and yeah, I mean there is a trophy.
Yeah.
For us, there is.
For
I'm
us,
just,
there is, yes. But no,
I've
but
got
you
to
can
show it off.
you can fend yourself on a weekly basis and see if you do well. It doesn't have to be. I know it's a bit late now, but no, join in. It's fun. People are really taking in and asking for it and talking about it a lot.
It's
quite
added an
fun.
extra dimension.
It's
to
definitely
the
quite
chat
fun,
and to the. It's been a bit of banter. Gareth, before we finish off, the
Go on,
most
then.
important public service announcement: happy birthday to George Kittle, friend of the show, Club
Wow.
85.
Flag
I'm sure
holder.
we've seen the tweets.
Flag
I'm
holder,
sure.
yes.
I'm sure he's listening in, but it would be amiss for us not to say happy birthday, George. And we've got Thursday night football, boys. Oh, Friday morning. I'm guessing all 3 of you staying up and watching the game
definitely.
live.
He's,
I'm gonna try. Busy
George,
days.
that reminds me, George's birthday last year, we had 3 touchdowns against the Dallas Cowboys, didn't he?
That's very true. That's very true.
And,
I think
and
I'm gonna
none
try
of
and
us went
stay
there
up.
with the Baldy. So
Can't win.
I'm actually off Friday, but I've got a very long day on Saturday, so we'll see.
I'm erring towards probably not being able to stay up to the small hours to watch it, but we will see. Thank you, gents. It has been a pleasure, and thanks
Thank
to
you.
everyone who listens and watches the show. If you want game time company in the very early hours of Friday morning, we do have our Discord chat, and the Facebook
dark.
will be turned off for posting until after the game when there's Eric's reaction thread. We will be back to review the game sometime later. So don't forget, stock up on the coffee, possibly some adult beverages if you like that sort of thing. But do enjoy the game and go Niners.
Go Niners.
Go Niners.
Bang, bang, Niner gang.
We love the San Francisco 49ers deep in the heart. Like Joe Montana in the corner, D. Clark. Garrison Hurst, stiff farm going 99. Don't get it twisted, one and all with prime time. John Taylor, Jerry Rice down the